Is Helldivers 2 a dream game by RubixRaptor?
Howdy! The past few months have been very good for video game hobbyists, affectionately known as gamers. In the past year, to name some highlights, we've had Armored Core 6, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, Lethal Company, Palworld, and now the latest game to continue our good luck streak, Helldivers 2. I have a lot to say about this game, hence why this video will not be like my normal content, but hopefully a fun watch nonetheless. Manscaped was also nice enough to support this, so more on them later. Helldivers means a lot to me. The first game came out in...
What an interesting way to do the ad read, actually. Like, the ad read is still incoming, don't get me wrong, but it's a nice way out of the gate, right? It's a nice way to get it out of the way early and have that expectation later. I kind of dig it because it doesn't detract from all the momentum early on.
2015 and was an escape for me as I came off the bus from high school, and now in 2024 its sequel is an escape for me from my adult life where I can live my suppressed fantasy of dropping enough orbital ordnance to turn a planet's surface to glass. Let it rain iron! In this video I'm going to go over what has made this sequel special to me, what we can probably expect from it in the future, and what makes Helldivers 2 a dream game. First off,
I like it. It was a short and snappy introduction. Minute, and everything you already need to know is already established. I really like this, actually.
Let's talk about a Swedish video game company. Arrowhead Studios, our protagonist for this story, was founded in 2008 by some rather creative university students that would go on to make games such as Magicka and, of course, Helldivers. If you're quick to connect the dots on the type of games they like to make, it can be described with the phrase, friendly fire. So what surprises it that now in Helldivers 2, the thing that I die from the most is my friend's mortar sentry. That aside, to expect one of the best third-person games of our age to come from a company that only has made platformers and isometrics was not on my bucket list, but, you know, isn't that what makes life so interesting? Speaking of Swedish companies, the video game engine that Helldivers 2 uses is BitSquid, an interesting piece of software developed by none other than the Stockholm company Fat Shark. Some may then have the knowledge that this is a company that developed Vermintide and Darktide, and all of a sudden it makes sense why this game seems to handle hordes of enemies running at you so well. That
Right.
Side note over, what I can say about Arrowhead is that they've never seemed to have lost the passion to make fun, creative projects, and I'd like to exemplify that with the little stuff. They also have this bit going on with shovels, so if you're an Arrowhead dev watching, what's the deal with that?
So here's the thing about this, and I think RubixRaptor touches on a couple really good points here, is that they haven't lost the passion. I've spoken with a number of people in regards to World of Warcraft, people with Activision Blizzard, allegedly self-admission from people that have left Activision Blizzard as well, and there's no passion. That's why World of Warcraft feels different. That's why Call of Duty, because I mean, I played back in Modern Warfare 2 era. I stopped before Black Ops, and so that's something that I actually really have to get to in 2024-ish. You know, gotta get around to playing those titles, the Black Ops titles. But that's why they feel so different. And if you've noticed that games, they feel soulless. They feel like platforms that are designed to get you to get on in, and they're for perpetual revenue for these companies, where you come on in, you get your battle pass, you get your daily rep grind going, you get your daily challenges and or battle pass challenges going, and it's meant to keep you returning. And it feels just so bleak. It feels so empty at times. That's because it is. By design, certain companies will release minimum viable products, MVPs, and they'll put it out, and they'll have the full monetization systems already enabled. That way they can generate revenue while they attempt to get the game to a point where they deem that it is acceptable for a finished product. Not necessarily the full finished product, but acceptable finished products. We can think games like Anthem and their roadmap. We can think, I feel it was Mass Effect Andromeda and a court ruling that a roadmap is not a promise of the future, that I think did set precedent for a lot of this. But definitely feel free to quote me if I'm wrong on that. The fact that they still have passion for their games is what is important to point out too. That there is, and this ties into the aforementioned statement. Why would you release a fully developed product with several years of time investment and hundreds of millions of dollars of investment if you maybe will break even that year? if you make a product, what differentiates you from other shooters? What differentiates you from other RTSs? What differentiates you from something like League, right? And why would you do that versus just releasing a minimum viable product and having full monetization features? And if you strike it big, and you make massive amounts of profit. But if you don't, you can at a certain point just say this game isn't profitable for us. We're just going to take it offline. And it's not like it'll have any of the source files or anything like that. They can still play the game with. Games like Evolve and Lawbreakers, right, have been taken offline. Even though people bought it, they physically can't play it. So I think that's a couple of interesting points to point out. One, the dev studio seems like they're absolutely legendary. They seem like they have a lot of fun, especially with the shovel bit. Two, they have passion for what they do, which is a rarity nowadays. And yeah, that's why we get bangers like Baldur's Gate 3. Why we get bangers like, I would argue, even the Dead Space remake. That went super hard. Resident Evil 4 remake. Both remakes, but they went super hard in their own capacities. You have games like Palworld, which, there was that equivalence going on. Oh, this is just Pokemon, but slightly to the left, which I disagree with. I think it's more akin to Ark, if anything. But, there's passion for this. And they want to release and I'm sure RubixRaptor will get to this at some point, a completed product on launch, which not a lot of games in modernity do.
I'm the one who made them real.
What I value in quality above all else in games is the accumulation of small details that put together a feeling of polish and completeness to an experience that you might not even fully recognize as why you enjoy something so much. I'm talking about the effort a developer or artist puts into something that most players might not even recognize or fully appreciate. These are items such as the Helldivers skull insignia on the bottom of your boot,
cool.
or your titanium alloy helmet that they brag about in the lore, and it actually deflects powerful hits, though the health of its occupant is not always guaranteed. Another great example of this is that despite the game being developed as a third-person shooter, they still went through the effort of giving every single weapon an option to aim down sights in first person. Additionally, they gave all these weapons a unique reload animation in first person that are arguably very high quality. There's also a single stratagem that you can get called the Ballistic Shield, an item that gives you a shield, obviously, that takes up one of your hands, and wouldn't you know it, now all of your weapons have a unique one-handed reload in a game that most of the time you'll be playing like this. The small references in this game have also brought me unnatural levels of joy. For a majority of my time playing so far, I've been using the SC-34 Scout Armor, the description of which reads, "This suit's plutonium-238 nuclear battery enables environmental scanning long after the user has ceased operation," which, intentionally or not, is a direct reference to the Scout Armor from the book Armor by John Stakely, written in 1984, one of my favorite novels of all time, and from which I enjoy this excerpt. Another fantastic one is that if you go on the galactic map and go up from Mars, you will find a planet named Clendath 2, a not-so-subtle nudge to one of the game's main inspirations, Starship Troopers, for which had the planet Clendath. In your ship's atrium, you can find on the right that there... Oh. Greetings, Super Earth citizens! This is your state-mandated check for hygiene and grooming, brought to you by our patron, Manscaped. As I mentioned before, Manscaped was nice enough to sponsor this project of mine, so to pay them back, I will now be telling you about their product while doing a Helldive difficulty planetary defense. I'll make it quick, I hope you enjoy. Today we're going to be talking about the Manscaped 5.0 performance package that comes with a bunch of stuff, including the new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Razor also comes with an interchangeable skin-safe blade. The interchangeable blade is between a ceramic and foil blade. The razor is also rechargeable, has travel locked, and is waterproof. Package comes with a whole bunch of other stuff, such as the Weed Whacker 2.0, an electric waterproof nose and ear hair trimmer. Isn't that crazy, Pip?
Fuck you, robot! You're not taking me alive!
This package also comes with the crop soother and crop preserver. Holy shit! It is the ultimate aftershave and cologne for all your grooming needs. Did I mention that the razor has an LED light on it? I definitely did. This entire package also comes with bonus items such as the Boxers 2.0 as well. Pip, did you know it comes? Oh my god, Pip, it comes with the Shed 2.0. Head over to manscaped.com to get the new performance package 5.0 Ultra today. And when you can use my code Rubix, you'll get an entire 20% off, plus free shipping, plus the bonus items. That's 20% off everything. Use the code or the automatons win. Thank you, Manscaped, for sponsoring this video. We're gonna get back to the other content now. Oh! Back to the actual.
What a cool way to segue into the ad read, because we all know, anyone that's played Helldivers, you looked at the screen and it comes on with its whole propaganda thing every now and again inside your ship. But what a cool way to use that as a feature to segue into the ad read. It's super creative ad reads like that that really make my time doing React content just absolutely next level. I love when people do this. I love when creators do this because it's so unique. It's so different rather than just like cut, next scene, and it's a completely different thing, and the audio quality is a little bit different. It's just very refreshing to see, and it was very creative.
Gameplay, the way your character reacts to terrain, whether it is trudging through snow or high water, sliding on ice, or plummeting off a rock face, all of it has beautiful animation work that easily translates to the player and lets them anchor themselves to the character that they are playing. Also, side note on the water, your kit floats and interacts with it, which is cool. Wild. Speaking of terrain, you can destroy it when there's an explosion, and there are a lot of explosions in this game. It permanently deforms the ground and structures, letting you or the enemy leave their mark. Also,
that's one of those things that, like, not a lot of games really do that. And that's honestly something I remember back when I was playing Battlefield, Bad Company 2, when that was the newest Battlefield title before Battlefield 3. And going into Battlefield 3, where a lot of friends were playing it, I was more like playing Halo Reach and Dead Space 2 and stuff still. But it is one of those things that we thought that was where Battlefield was going to go, because they had, the marketing point for Battlefield was these large scale engagements, and it's got the bullet drops when you try to snipe, which, oh my God, that bullet, it felt really satisfying when you got just a cross map with it. It was so good. And we thought Battlefield was going to kind of become that, but then Battlefield kind of shifted. We had Hardline, and now with 2042, we don't even know what the next Battlefield title is going to be, or when it's going to release, or if there's going to perpetually, monetize 2042, if the franchise is on ice or not. And this is something that we thought, at least in my friend group, that Battlefield was going to go for. They eventually were going to have these like permanent terrain destructions and stuff like this, along with more building destruction. But then, unfortunately, it didn't go quite that way. It's a very cool detail that it has that not a lot of games utilize. So I do want to praise Helldivers for this feature.
Oh, that was a 500 kilogram bomb, which, by the way, you can kill someone with physically before it even explodes. Not like it needed to, but it does. If you can't tell by now, I could probably tangent on the minutia of this game for a bit, so I will attempt to speed it up. The hitboxes in this game are so good that it makes you forget about the concept of hitboxes. Not only for yourself, but every enemy in the game, for which it rewards you on the impact of every bullet. You have a godless, freedom-hating bug chasing you? Blast its leg off and watch it limp and bleed out. Is there a robot set on destroying your way of life? Remove its instruments of oppression and remind it why humanity is #1. You can also walk on all the enemies and your friends, as a small aside. When shooting as well, your third-person HUD has a dynamic crosshair, which not only shows you where you are aiming, but also where your barrel is pointed. This allows for slower handling guns to feel like they are acting like they should to the player, while not compromising their heavy feeling, which is a feature that was in one of my favorite games, Arma 2, and it seems like lost media at this point now. Now, let me talk about these skyboxes and ships. When you look into the sky, you can see the distant battles of other players. While most likely not real, it does cement the feeling that you are a cog in a galactic war. What definitely is real, though, is your own ship, and being able to watch it rain brimstone upon your enemies is a phenomenal feeling. From up above, you are once again greeted with a fantastic scene of a world in peril, able to see stratagems and fire missions across its surface. As well, if you're fighting the automatons, you will begin to realize that, unlike the bugs, they are not defenseless against your fleet. When you go to travel between missions with your friends, you will warp between planets, or if you are moving to a new mission, you can watch as your vessel traverses the globe through your windows. If a friend is planning an operation, the table will display exactly what they're doing, letting you coordinate and plan your next adventure.
I did like this. I did like this feature. A lot of games I feel would absolutely omit this, and that is a darn shame. The fact that this game has a real-time galactic war table, think like Mass Effect 3 kind of, right? The fact that it has a real-time galactic war table that other players can see goes super hard. He is hitting all the right points with this. The fact that it all comes down to and coalesces into the game having heart and soul. All of these little things begin to add up at a certain point. You can have your standard Call of Duty style FPS. You can have your standard MMO. When I say standard MMO, I mean, kind of like back in the early 2000s, how everything had an MMO, and there were some that were definitely better than others, right? Nowadays, we have things like 14, we have things like ESO, we have things like World of Warcraft still, right? But each of them kind of has things that make them unique, right? Each of these has things that make them what they are. this has an identity, and this has forged its identity in a lot of the cool minutia that it does have, and a lot of the cool things that it does. It didn't have to do a lot of these things. You know, oh, you could argue, well, I mean, it could be branding for, you know, putting the skulls in the bottom of the boot, right? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Did it have to add the dynamic reticle with the circle that shows where your barrel's pointing? No, but honestly, I want more. I wish more games had that, especially in this genre. I think something like what EA Battlefront 2 probably could have benefited from this in a sense. Don't you agree? The fact that they have a mode where you can even aim down sights is invaluable and very cool. The fact that this game didn't have to do that, but it did, and it also has really good reload animations before. We've talked a lot, you know, talked on the channel before about reload animations and how good reload animations, the art of the reload, is incredibly important for immersion. I have a buddy who doesn't like Halo because the reload animations feel so floaty to them. And you know what? To each their own. I can see where he's coming from. They're more into, you know, the better reloads. They're more into think like Modern Warfare 2019, Modern Warfare 2, that kind of thing. Not necessarily modern games, but how the reloads feel like they have weight, how they feel more realistic, that kind of thing. The sniper rifle from Halo 3 probably, you know, still a little bit floaty. The AR definitely a little floaty. I get where they're coming from. And all of this culminates into, as I said, an identity of the game, the game having soul, and it is so refreshing in a AAA, even quadruple A industry that just doesn't hit the mark.
Okay, I have to end this section here because I am realizing that it is endless. I'm going to end up talking about stage reloads or the dual tube indicator on the shotgun for the next hour if I'm not careful. And even recording B-roll, I kept finding more shit.
Yeah.
Oh! Free!
We're discovering cool little quirks about this game while trying to film a video about cool little quirks for this game. Okay, there is more, but lightning round. The rocket launchers have backblast. Your character starts to scream when you hold down the trigger of weapons. You can land stratagems on enemies and it will kill them. The automatons have march-in songs. Your armor gets covered in blood, bug guts, and dirt. Specific voice lines for each kind of injury you can receive.
Who's gonna land my...
And on snow maps, you can actually make and throw snowballs.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
slowed me.
There is more, but I gotta move on. If there's something you like specifically, you can just let me know. But I think it is time that we move on to the big stuff.
I think the stratagems, being able to call those in on enemies, is actually super invaluable, especially for Bile Titans. The playgroup that I ended up playing with, I mean, Bile Titans are a non-issue after a certain point. I think they use an expendable, and then they drop, I don't remember what it is, I think they drop a 500 on them. But, like, yeah, it's a 1-2 combo. Grats, you don't have to deal with the Bile Titan anymore. That being said, it does require a little bit of prep time. If a Bile Titan suddenly just blindsides you, it's a little harder to land it. But it's just invaluable. There are so many cool little features about this game.
This game is just fun. Its gameplay loop is violently simple. Meet up on your ship with your friends, pick the operation you feel like doing, coordinate your loadouts for this match's playstyle, drop through atmosphere like Prometheus Return to Earth, clear your landing zone and gear up, kill the traitors of democracy, burn the traitors of democracy, do objectives, loot points of interest, get to the extract, and leave. Now, what truly makes this loop good is the freedom, pun intended, in which you can get it done and the possibilities that can occur while you're getting it done. Don't want a safe landing? Start your mission in the middle of an enemy's base. Want to focus on loot? Find a radar station and scan the map. Don't want to be swarmed by enemy reinforcements? Try a stealth run against an enemy encampment. This last one I can't recommend trying enough. For a game about bravado and mayhem, its stealth is surprisingly fun and rewarding when you get to do entire objectives without being attacked, which is helpful on the higher difficulties.
Oh, yeah,
this is working. This is so dumb. Holy shit. All throughout, you'll be using stratagems ranging from precision strikes to napalm bombing or screen covering artillery barrages. These, of course, course, are for repelling the waves of monsters and robots thrown your way, as well as turning your friends to mashed potatoes. Speaking on that note, accidentally killing your friends is a core gameplay element, which is wild. You're left considering if you should use a specific call-in because you have a teammate in its radius, or you find an arc thrower, but you know one wrong move will molecularly disassemble a squad mate. The fact that you can...
The Tesla coils will do that too. We were doing a round of bug elimination, and Buddy had put down a Tesla coil, and it arced to me because I walked in its radius, and then it arced to him, and he was way outside of its radius. That stuff gets fun.
Have friends with you is a difficulty multiplier. One of the games that feels like it also does this is Escape from Tarkov, where you can bring a full squad of 5 people, but you risk blasting each other apart in a friendly fire incident. Though, unlike Escape from Tarkov, when you are obliterated by your team, most of the time it is a laughing matter, and a lot of the times it's very fun. I'm shocked you haven't arc thrown. Get it? Shocked? I knew it was coming. I tried to get away. The drop pod and respawn system is great, letting you get straight back into the fun, and when the reinforcement counter finally starts running out, you begin to have some of the most intense fights the game has to offer. And when you have all the equipment in the game, those said fights are some of the most uniquely entertaining experiences you can have in a video game. Also, blessed be the flamethrower against bugs. Thou flame is a righteous beacon in the coming of the dark, and it is fucking fun. I also know I talked about your friends being a burden in this game, but they are also your greatest asset. They have the ability to squad load your weapons and turn you into the incarnate of murder. They can heal and help you out of situations, keep you supplied, draw the enemy's fire to let you complete objectives, and give their lives for Super Earth in your stead. The next is hands down my favorite part of this game, which is the terrains, which I don't need to talk about, I'm just gonna show you.
The terrains are very beautiful in this game. Like, you can see the lighting's great. It's very varied. It's not like it's, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 environments. There are many different environments.
I've also now reached the epiphany that I've said what I needed to in this section. The game is great. I encourage you to find a live stream of it and see what I'm talking about. Never mind, I just remembered the ragdolls. The ragdolls in this game, especially the diving and then ragdolling, is peak.
They're good. They're so good.
Holy shit!
I haven't enjoyed diving this much since Max Payne, and the ragdolls remind me of my favorite game of all time, Arma 3, which probably deserves its own video down the line in the future. Okay, I'm done. Let's talk about the world of Helldivers.
I think that he does encapsulate it perfectly. So, to kind of summarize, it is a very simplistic gameplay loop, but simple doesn't necessarily mean bad. When we say simplistic gameplay loop, I mean, it really does come down to get with your squad, drop on a planet, figure out how you want to play the game at that point. Are you stealthing? Are you dropping an enemy encampment? Are you dropping in a safe encampment? Are you calling in a grenade launcher? Are you calling in a machine gun? What stratagems are you calling in? Do the objective or objectives, main and optional, and then extract. It's a very simple gameplay loop. What makes it good is the variance at which you can do it with. You can, as we said, choose to stealth, choose to call in a grenade launch, choose to call in a machine gun, drop in heavy, drop in hot, right? You can do a number of things to complete each of these. The game doesn't bog you down with various submenus or bog you down with, various, we have to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z in sequence to actually finish the game. It doesn't do that. And I applauded on it. It's beautiful in its simplicity. And more games need to do this. More games need to say, this is my gameplay loop. This is what this game is. Where you have games that have complete open worlds that feel empty and barren. Why did this open world even exist? Like, to me, Halo Infinite, I don't like that I had an open world personally. I know that I'm in the niche of a niche. I liked Halo Infinite, and I don't like the open world in it. I wish they had done just a standard mission thing. Well, Kip, you do realize that there is the mission selector. I honestly can't navigate it half the time. I do not like the way that they did it personally. Plus, that was added after launch. That was a post-launch feature. It was not inherent. I thought Halo Infinite would have been much better if development time had been, taken away from the open world environment and all of that, and just make it standard missions. I think we could have gotten a lot better and more streamlined content that way, in my personal opinion. But I am also a niche of a niche. The fact that Helldivers is open world, but it's open world to a limited capacity, you drop in on this map and there are points of interest, right? That's all you need to do. It's not like you have some mass grandiose world like Starfield. It's not like you have some heavily populated, heavy insight, heavy world like Elden Ring. Elden Ring, I think, is probably the best open world to date in modern gaming, and more games need to be looking at that for points of interest, stuff like that, etc. And it's not overburdened by that. It knows what it is. It drops you into an area, and you have to use variable means to deal with the same problem. And giving that level of creativity to your players is a win, is an absolute net positive. Some players are stealth players. I'm not a stealth player. Some players like going loud. I like going loud. And so how do you approach that? How do you, in your particular play style, approach this? There are people that absolutely hate the Watchdog. I like the Watchdog for bugs. I think it's a neat stratagem. I think that it's great. There are people that will swear by the bubble shield. Absolutely. But the moment they see bugs, they'll be like, no, I'm not dealing with the bubble shield. And they can absolutely do it. They can solo entire large bug nests or solo bot encampments, and because they don't need it. Meanwhile, other people like me are probably just going to camp that shield once I get up to 20 because, man, I take a lot of damage. I'm not very good at situational awareness, but there are people that are. And it accommodates for all of these skill levels and accommodates for all of these play styles by giving you the tools and not pigeonholing you into one or two specific styles of play. I'm not going to include metagames in this because in anything, there will always be better options statistically and functionally. There will always be something that is just better. This is how metagames develop. You can have something like Magic the Gathering where, say, if you have a 1 red creature that's 3/3, right? Well, I guess that's probably one of the best things in the format at that point in time. Or if you are in a game and the FAL, right, the FN foul, right? If that is a 1-shot headshot, but every other weapon in the game is a 2-shot headshot for some reason, well, I guess you have your meta pick at that point, right? And anything a meta will develop, and people say that, it's bubble. I think it's like bubble shield. I think it's like bubble shield, railgun. Can't remember the other two, but like there are things that people will pick, and there's supposed to be a quote unquote decorum etiquette for 8 and above. Just play the game the way you want to play it. Okay. This game is all about teamwork, and this game for a lot of people is about fun and being able to spread democracy and liberate a system full of bugs and bots. Just let people play their game. If you want to have your sweat lobbies, that is your own prerogative. The moment we start making this a mandatory, you must be doing this, it kind of reminds me of like, oh, you have to be in my clan back on Xbox Live, right? Xbox 360 days. You have to be in my clan to play with us. I can't stand that. Ugh. But it is circling back around. It is about the variance that this game allows you to do, the freedom that you have to finish these objectives. And this is kind of a pattern that I've noticed with gaming, especially modern games, that the more a game allows you to play the game, to be yourself, to solve it in the ways that you deem is best, that is the mark of a good game, or at least a mark of a game that can truly transcend and be next level. You have games that force you to do stealth. You have games that force you into an on-rail turret section. You have games that force you to do Assassin's Creed 2, right? Assassin's Creed 2, where you're supposed to get all of the certain page. You have to backtrack at all the pages if you didn't get it in order to fight the final boss, something which I didn't do because I didn't want to backtrack all that way. There are certain things like that that can kill the enjoyment for a lot of players, and Helldivers does a very good job of mitigating any of that stress and giving you the reins, giving you that freedom.
At the end of the Helldivers tutorial, your graduation from training is marked by receiving your cape, a feature to combat armor that is utterly ridiculous, yet it's perfection when trying to convey what kind of universe you are now a part of. That is, a satirical dystopia that uses hyperbolic American culture where virtues such as bravery and courage drown out common sense. And it is absolutely hilarious.
It's great.
Also, if the irony of everyone talking about liberty and freedom while having no liberty and freedom is lost on you, wazam, now it isn't. This world is also conveyed to you through almost entirely organic means. Besides the boot up of the game, there is no screen covering cinematics feeding you lore. Where you begin to learn about the world is idle conversation with your ship's crew.
I can't believe I'm here for the first real Helldiver activation in 100 years.
The orders that you're given for battle, and the ever-present propaganda being beamed into your atrium.
The only thing that can stop
Bug.
them, a strong economy. Don't let your family get murdered. Spend your extra cash today.
Keeping this passive lore momentum going, all the equipment descriptions reflect this same tone of comedic irony. For example, the yogurt armor. Apparently, some corporation thought it would be good marketing to dress humanity's elite soldiers in yogurt advertisement and then hurl them at alien worlds. It's also an armor that you get free at the start of the game.
Everyone has yogurt armor.
I do think that that's a little bit, as far as I'm aware, I think that was a pre-order specific bonus. I could be wrong though, because I don't have it. And I think if you buy the big boy edition now, you're not able to get. I think it is a specific pre-order thing. But that being said, like the absolute just irony and just absolute hilarity of a concept like this is not lost on me. It's you're effectively getting a sponsor, no different than, say, I don't know, a funny energy drink company slapping their logo on a race car, right, at a Formula One track, right? It's the same concept.
Dipshit. It came free with your fucking Helldivers.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, see.
I'm also not proud to say that we've used the yogurt armor a little too much.
Grenades! Salvo them! Free yogurt core! Yogurt boy down!
Gems.
It's okay!
That was a great yogurt advertisement. Continuing on the lore, it's meticulously intertwined with every aspect of the game, including the loading tips, which, by the way, I got this one, and then I went back to play the first game and immediately got it again.
I think I need to go drink and drive.
Once you are on a planet, however, the lore is a lot more hands-on, able to find points of interest with object descriptions and left-behind info logs. Also, some good pieces of environmental storytelling. Side note, the flamethrower does not set off hell bombs. My intrusive thoughts checked. However, what makes this game's story special is it's happening live and being created by the community while being shepherded by the developers. In the first week, you might have seen the memes that the Battle of Malevelon Creek created, a planet in permanent twilight with thick jungles that left players LARPing the Vietnam War and having the time of their lives. The battles on this planet quickly becoming not just part of the game's culture, but the actual lore of the universe and the current war. On the developers' end, when the legions of Helldivers liberated the worlds of Angels, Ventures, and Heath, it became an in-game event, and news broadcasts about it began to play while the characters on your ships began to talk about it. All of this culminates to create an atmosphere and culture that has a direct impact on gameplay. The Society of Super Earth puts a pretty low value on human life, and everything reflects that. Your turrets do not have fail-safes. They will kill you to get to the enemy. Your weapons, like the railgun, even have an unsafe mode with predictable results. Even if you and all of your friends die in a mission, as long as the objectives were complete, it still counts as a full victory. All in all, the question of is the Helldivers 2 story good can't be answered yet because it's ongoing. I think, however, what they've shown so far has been phenomenal, and I can't wait to see where it progresses to. And speaking of the future, let's go ahead and try to predict it.
So that is a very good point as well. So he sums it up, and I think there's a kind of macro thing here that I kind of want to address. This is the way a live service should be done. As somebody that's played a number of live services, and I'm sure a number of you have played a number of live services as well. As people that play a number of live services, how many times do you have content droughts? How many times do you have developers that just don't respond? And sometimes that can be because they're under NDA, because there's something new's coming out, or it can be by their own admission that, hey, we just want to talk to the community. There was a certain event that led to Destiny 2 taking that stance. And I can't stress enough, do not send inappropriate things or take inappropriate actions against developers. At the end of the day, developers are only developers and they can only do what management tells them to do. Developers don't really have that autonomy. So if there's a bug in the game that is deemed as too low of a priority, do you think a developer just gets to go in one day and they just get to do it? No, their manager's just going to say, all right, today we're focusing on microtransactions. Here's your job, grats. That becomes a manager issue, and then that becomes a shareholder issue, etc. The devs are really the people that make the game, is what I'm trying to say. But In the case of Destiny 2, as far as I'm aware, there was their own admission that they did not want to talk to the community at a certain point in time in Lightfall, which led to increased tensions with the community. And with a lot of us acknowledging, yeah, you don't send certain threats to the dev team. You just don't do that. And feeling like the community as a whole got punished on that. So just wanted a quick aside with that. But this is how a live service should be done. A live service should be done with transparency. A live service should be done with letting the community help build the world. And I think that's why it's doing so well, is that we've all seen the Creek memes. We've, it's ongoing story being developed by the players, and it's being reflected in the game as well. It feels like our actions, us doing our part, there's the funny meme, is helping in the greater conflict. And am I saying that there needs to be new content every single day? No, the gameplay loop carries through it in itself. The gameplay loop translating into metrics of taking a planet back, liberating a planet, carries that through each update. And I think this differs because Halo Infinite as well, I played the beta. It was November 15th, 2022, I think it was, something like that. I played in the beta. And it had a lot of momentum, but it couldn't keep up that momentum. After a certain point, it just stagnated. And I guess like Helldivers at launch, it also had netcode issues. Halo Infinite's a little bit of an odd one because it had netcode issues that persisted for 2 years. And I think some of them still persist. The netcode and network desync were a lot of what got me out of the game. In regards to Helldivers 2, their net issues were because of the sheer influx of players that they did not plan on. Them being a smaller studio than Microsoft and 343, this is also reasonable. You can't judge them the same. If you are Blizzard Activision and you have the same network issues that Helldivers did, that is unacceptable. You have the backing, you have the money, you have the talent, you have the time. That should never be a thing. For Helldivers, this is because there are so many players seeing what's special about this game, and they're flocking to it. So allowing your community to have that freedom, allowing your community to make a lasting impression on the game, and engaging with your community in positive fashions, right, builds a good, cohesive experience. It makes you want to come back and do your part. And that is super important to consider about live service games. I don't know what the exact quote is. I had heard allegedly that the CEO of Arrowhead had said that live service games should earn to be monetized. Whether that's true or not, whether that's citable or not, you can see that in the game. The game delivers a complete product right out of the box. When you boot up Helldivers, you're not greeted with excessive menus. I mean, obviously there's updates and that's a little different, right? You're not greeted with excessive menus. You don't go down to a planet and, oh, sorry, this bunker is paywalled behind the bunker DLC, right? Which, how many other games would paywall a feature like the bunkers, right? Destiny 2, for instance, how many current seasonal challenges and activities like Warlords, right, are locked behind a dungeon key, right? So you have that. How many other studios would paywall a feature like that? And then you have the whole, you can earn premium credits, you can earn the super credits just in the game by playing the game, further incentivizing, just play the game which you want to play, and you get rewarded for playing it. How many other studios would completely omit the ability to earn super credits in-game for free? Something like Diablo 4 comes to mind, right? Where, yes, you can earn premium currency by doing the Battle Pass. Halo Infinite as well, you can earn by doing the Battle Pass. But that initial one, you kind of had to buy, right? And you see how there's still that monetary investment up front. This game allows you to play the game without having you take out your credit card every 5 minutes. And even not every 5 minutes. It allows you to play the game, to not have to worry about buying some arbitrary DLC, to not worry about buying the season pass and making sure you play the battle pass in a certain amount of time or you lose it, a la Destiny, right? And it's so refreshing to see that it does this. And the fact that the battle passes are completely free because you can't earn enough super credits, just buy the battle pass outright. It's so cool to see, and this will have an impact in how people perceive the modern monetization systems and modern life services.
Down the past reminds us that all flesh is grass and history's lamps blow out.
The easiest way, I believe, to predict the future of Helldivers 2 is to look back at the first game. As it stands, they've faithfully transferred a lot of the game's most iconic features to the sequel, so following that pattern, there might be some fun stuff down the line. The first thing that's coming, however, that we actually know about is the vehicle update.
Yeah. That is my one thing that I could see them needing to do. Some of the maps are pretty large.
Got a job for you, 621.
One of the best parts of Helldivers 1 was the Met call-ins that turned you into a god of war until you ran out of ammo or exploded. As well, if you look at certain wreck sites in Helldivers 2, you can actually find the model of the battle mechs that are most likely coming to the game. You can also find the wrecks of armored personnel carriers, which is also in Helldivers 1, which is exciting. There's also the wreck of a dune buggy slash jeep, which is also super neat. That rhymed. The next thing is the enemies, and you may have noticed there was a very large section of open space under Super Earth. In the first game, this is occupied by the Illuminate, an ancient alien civilization with technology beyond our understanding, and was also my least favorite to fight in Helldivers 1. That being said, I think their mechanics would be much more fun to go against in a third-person environment, so I am still looking forward to it. Another thing from Helldivers 1 is a new mission type, like boss battles, which I'm gonna put my hat in the ring and say if you let us make bigger lobbies to fight Helldiver raids with like one stratagem each, I will be in Super Earth heaven. There's also different map types like cities, which I couldn't get footage of from Helldivers 1 at the moment, but they are super cool. Lastly, there's a ton of guns that could be added from the first game. We of course have our classics like the Liberator, the Scythe, and the Breaker, but I desperately want the bolt action Constitution rifle. Also on that note, give us bayonets, or an idea that I'm going to steal from one of my patrons, please give us melee weapons, even if they are terrible. Anyway, another amazing topic transition incoming. Speaking of terrible, let's talk about the game's shortcomings.
I think that it's important to note that while I talk about minimum viable products, there could be a counter argument saying, well, Kip, isn't this a minimum viable product where they clearly have things from Helldivers 1 that they didn't put in the game, and so then they're just putting it out and then they're just kind of patching it up later? Yes and no. A minimum viable product is something that at launch is so incredibly bare bones that requires continued updates to even just remotely function. The difference here is that Helldivers is complete out of the box. I can have my, not necessarily concern, but my input that some of the maps are in fact large and that vehicles would help. But oh darn, it's almost like they have mechs already inbound. They could add the armored troop carrier. They could add things to augment that. And that right there is the key. It augments the core experience. And then you could have something down the line like an expansion, if they need to do a paid expansion, where it's a massive update, right? Where you just get a bunch of stuff, but obviously a studio needs money to function. And if you treat players right, people will spend money. When you mistreat players, when you make their time feel like a wasted investment, that's when they don't want to pay. That's when they just say, why am I still here? It's me and Halo Infinite. As much as I love Halo, I am a huge Halo nut, huge Halo nerd, have community nets on it every now and again because I love it and want to share Halo with a lot of people, right? But when you feel like your time is mistreated, do you necessarily care that, hey, you have 5 battle passes you can go through if the network is just that bad, right? If you're going into games that have notorious cheater issues, or you have games that have massive content droughts, like Destiny 2, I really feel for some of those Crucible and Trial players. I don't play Crucible and Trials, but God, I feel for them. That it's rough to be in the situation that they're in. But when you have massive content droughts, like especially leading up into the final shape at this point in time where this video is coming out, where we have an extended season by like 6 months, I'm already like, 150 in the battle pass, I think, easy. People can easily get to 400 in a regular season. And I guess, yeah, we do have like this mid-season launch of like Return to Light or whatever it's called. But the reason Destiny 2 kind of fails as a live service is the fact that it doesn't quite engage people outside of the initial, 8 weeks in a season, because that's when the story comes out. And then you obviously have your epilogue. But you have this whole rest of your, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 7, what is that, 56? You still have an extra 40-ish days, and that does account for variance because people do work. People can't be on Destiny 24/7, nor as somebody who was on Destiny 24/7 can I recommend it. But when you start hitting those lull periods, and it just feels like you're going through the motions and there's not really any correspondence. Yes, there's the twits, the twabs, etc. It starts to get boring for a lot of players. And there are certain ways, especially in, say, GM Nightfalls, that you just play the game. Helldivers doesn't run into that issue. You can go in with your, I can't remember what it's called. It's the fully auto shotgun. It's super good right now. Or you can go with the Scythe. The Scythe is realistically lacking for power due to a lot of people's admissions, but you can go in with it. You can go in with realistically anything as long as you have the skill level. And I guess you can technically GMs as well, but you also have to account for barrier champions, overload champions, unstopped champions, etc. And it just becomes kind of a mess. The fact that Helldivers is doing a live service right, or at least doing a live service way better than a lot of competition in the same sphere. I think we reasonably can say Call of Duty is a competitor. We can say Destiny 2 is a competitor. We can say, God, even maybe Rainbow Six Siege could be a competitor, because they all kind of fall into this, not necessarily FPS, but shooter category. The fact that Helldivers is doing this and a lot better than other companies kind of shows that the industry is in dire straits. That's not a job at Helldivers. That's a job at the greater industry, and just how lackluster a lot of titles have become since probably, 2015-ish forward?
If you were to have seen the Steam reviews on the first day of launch, this looked a lot different. It used to have mostly negative reviews, and almost all of them were about the game's anti-cheat called GameGuard. GameGuard is a kernel-level software, meaning it has access to the core files of Windows and essentially everything that runs on your computer. In the cybersecurity world, we would call that a rootkit. Now, I am personally not bothered by this, and I trust that it would never be used nefariously, as many other games like Fortnite or Fall Guys or Rainbow Six Siege all have similar software. However, I'm not going to minimize the concerns other people have, especially if security of your system is a higher priority. I essentially agree that this invasive form of anti-cheat is bad. On top of that, this has caused game issues even in my friend circle where it can't let certain people play, which blows. On top of the GameGuard stuff, Helldivers still has plenty of glitches, and everyone will most likely experience a game where they barely make it to extract just for it to crash or something to break horrifically and you lose the mission. This problem is way more fixable, and I expect it to be resolved soon, but it, again, still sucks. Also, if you're like me, most of your time will now be spent in a queue because so many people want to play this game, there's just not enough room, which isn't good, especially when you get home to play a game that you paid for but can't. Though I'm sure it's a good problem to have from the dev's point of view, and also something that will probably be resolved pretty soon. Another drawback is that this is a Sony console exclusive, which always sucks because there's a ton of people out there that might have an Xbox that really want to play the game and can't. That being said, it's created one of the more wholesome memes I've seen on the internet, with Sony players desperately asking for Xbox players to be let in because they need more soldiers to fight off the alien menace. Please keep making more of those types of memes. They make me feel better about people. My last caveat I want to point out is that there is a cash shop, which always feels icky to me. It allows you to spend real money that allows you to buy armor sets as well as a battle pass with some okay-ish weapons. I know, of course, that this game wants a long lifespan, so these are probably necessary for another 8 years of helldiving, but something about seeing a $sign in a video game always puts me off. That being said, you can actually pretty easily earn premium
I was about to say, he's got to mention this, right? He has to, and thus he is mentioning
currency just by playing the game. And I've been able to buy everything I've wanted just from the loot I've gathered, so that is a huge positive. It's also better than
right there. Everything you wanted, he was able to buy from just that. The fact that you don't have to spend money is phenomenal. It blows my mind. And this is how gaming used to be, realistically, right? Halo Reach, right? Did you have to spend money to buy your Gungnir? Did you have to spend money to get your Thunderstorm armor effect? Do you have to spend money for your CQB set, right? No, you just played the game, you got your in-game credits, and then you just bought all the things. Oh my God, there was so much to buy though. Some of those cost a lot, especially the Master Chief voice. Oh my God. But like, that's how gaming used to be. And it's translating how gaming used to be into the modern sphere. If you don't want to spend the hours in the game or can't spend the hours in the game, yes, you can absolutely purchase super credits for real cash. And it's not like it's other live service games that end up, well, you buy this currency, but then you have to convert it to this currency, and that allows you to buy this currency, and it obfuscates the currency. So by the end, you're like, well, how much did I actually spend in this to get the required end goal, right? It doesn't do that. It's just a grats. Here, spend this. Here's your super credits. Buy what you want, right? That kind of thing. And gamers generally, I found, will buy stuff like this, especially if the game respects their time. The fact that you also can augment your experience with in-game super credits. If you want to time save, right? The whole concept of time savers, yeah, absolutely go for it. But it's not mandatory. And so, while this comes across as a negative, to me, I kind of dismiss it because it's much like, well, why should my game have a why should my game have some sort of some additional purchases, right? I bought the darn thing, you know, I want to play the darn thing. I don't want to buy anything else. Well, yes, I can agree with you. I mean, back in the day, right, if I look at my copy of, say, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube, right, there's not necessarily DLC for it, right? Like, I get the sentiment, or Final Fantasy 7, right? Original 7 on the PS1, which I have a copy of, right? The old black discs. Oh, people haven't thought about that in years, have they? There's, yes, I understand where you're coming from. There are other people that just, like me, that really just don't care. I mean, you can look at something like the Resident Evil 4 premium upgrade tickets and just go like, and? Like, why would I buy this? But other people would want to save the hours, save the time that it takes to grind, and just buy it outright. And that's perfectly fine and reasonable. Now, this gets problematic when you start getting into situations where when you buy premium content, it augments your game to the point that it's unfair or causes an unfair advantage to players that haven't bought the premium content, specifically in PvP games. Imagine, if you will, in Destiny, if you could buy a helmet that just gave you like 10 extra resilience as an intrinsic trait, right? Or I guess resistance, you get what I'm saying, right? Or it gives you a edge in PvP, like it gives you a plus 3% to SMG damage in the Crucible, right? And you have to pay real money for that. You have to pay silver for that. How many people will be outraged? I know there was an interaction in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and the more recent one, obviously. And there was a ghost skin that allowed you to have, I think, an extra armor plate or something like that. While it technically can be negligible, you are still giving an unfair advantage to people who buy premium content. And that is something that I do frown upon. When it starts to augment gameplay in an unfair advantage, we need to start having a discussion about the efficacy and, you know, just getting it out of gaming. If you want to buy a funny unicorn helmet, say a unicorn helmet comes to Helldivers, who cares? Like, if funny cat ears came to Halo Infinite, which it did, and you want to buy it, which I did, cool. Who cares? It doesn't affect the gameplay in a negative capacity, other than showing you as an absolute dingus with cat ears, like me.
Helldivers 1, where you needed to buy 17 separate DLCs on Steam to have the meta gear to play the game. Also, last criticism, please add invite-only lobbies. During the recording of this video, I've had like 16 people from my friends list randomly join and destroy my B-roll. So that would be handy. Alrighty, I am done with the negatives. Now, despite all those downsides, I still believe Helldivers 2 to be a dream game for me. Everything from its core gameplay to the little details has me enthralled, and the experience of waking up at 4 a.m. to play on launch with my friends is going to be a core memory I'll have for the rest of my life. This was also my first swing at a video essay, so hopefully I was able to convey my passion for the subject coherently. I'm gonna end this video now for the unironic reason that I want to go play more Helldivers. So I can't thank you enough for stopping by, and I hope you have a good one.
This is great. I did like this. I actually really did like this in terms of how the screen transitioned to the other screen. Oh, that was super cool. Honest thoughts, because if this is RubixRaptor's, you know, kind of foray start into video essay content, because I know him for a lot of like, you know, the Arma 3 clips, some of the Final Fantasy 14 videos and stuff that he's done, and it's kind of been adjacent to that. It's been kind of, you know, it is a through line in an experience that they had, right? And honest opinions, I liked it. I thought this was very good. I thought 2356, some might consider that too long. I think that this was very coherent. I think that, you know, splitting it into the parts that it did was very, very good. And a lot of the care and that passion did shine through, because clearly RubixRaptor is passionate about Helldivers. I think we can all gain that from the content. We can all gain that from the source. Certain points it might feel like, you know, there's the argument that he could have talked at the audience, us, rather than talked to the audience. But really, I mean, that's negligible. There are certain content out there that it's like, you know, oh, and today we're talking about Helldivers 2, a game launched in 2024 to mass critical, right? You know what I'm talking about when I say stuff like that. This was talking to us for the most part, and I liked it, and there was passion that came through. He showcased his ability to, you know, cite what he did in Helldivers 1 and some of the things that he can pull from Helldivers 1 to bring it into current. And for a React content creator like, you know, like I'm doing, right? So for someone that's reacting to this video, there are certain things like the super credits thing where I'm pausing because the thought isn't quite finished. That's not necessarily a fair criticism of the content because I am pausing in the middle of, say, a paragraph. Say he's getting 3 sentences in out of a 5-sentence paragraph. I'm pausing to mention super credits, and then he finishes off with, oh, well, you can find super credits by playing the game of the bunker, right? That's a little different. I actually like this. I thought this was incredibly cohesive. I thought this was incredibly coherent. I thought a lot of the footage was on point, which is great to consider, right? Not a lot of people really kind of think about how sometimes the footage can go pretty south pretty quickly, if that makes sense, where, say, you're talking about stratagems, right? But you're just fighting a Bile Titan with a shotgun, right? Where it's not quite showcasing that and just adding, hey, you're dropping a 500 kilo or you're dropping a, you know, dropping an Eagle Strike on it, right? That showcases, oh, you're talking about the relevant source material. It's not akin to if I'm reacting to, say, this video, right? And there's a video of, say, like Neko Arc up, right? How it's not quite the same. And that's a consideration you have to make when making videos is, does this content match what I'm trying to do? I thought this was great. I thought this was incredibly cohesive. I thought this was coherent. I thought this was very personable. I thought that this came with a lot of expertise and knowledge. And so, I mean, honest first opinion, if this is especially one of the first attempts at, you know, this kind of content for RubixRaptor, I thought it was great. Solid content. Keep it up. This was absolutely amazing to watch. And if you haven't checked out RubixRaptor, definitely go ahead and check out RubixRaptor. He's an amazing individual. Him and all of Ignis Core just continue to put out amazing content. And I wanted to wait on this one because I knew there were going to be things that I wanted to say, things that I wanted to add to this, and I kind of wanted to give it the respect that I felt that it deserved. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Is this the first experience you have with RubixRaptor? Is this the first experience like this you have with RubixRaptor in regards to more narrative content, more, you know, that kind of... I'm totally blanking on the word. this kind of paper-like content, if you will, analysis. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section. Let me know your favorite Helldivers experience. And thank you, everybody. I'll see you all in the next one.